number 2.
Yep, good to go. Episode 107. It's been a few weeks. Feel like we had to take a bit of a chill pill after the last one with, what was it, Douglas Ross and the Atomic Kitten Chronicles.
Andy was some man, mate.
I mean, that's the thing, like, doing this, I didn't expect to be told so many things. Like, there's so many things that come along with doing something like this that you just don't expect to be the case when you start out doing something. Yeah. But I'm being rude because we do have another guest in today.
I wonder what kind of dark truths we're going to get out of Corey today.
But this is for everyone that's probably like, where's everyone from SBG and Elgin Boxing Club? This is what this podcast focuses around a lot of the time. Yeah. Well, you're happy today because we have got decorated amateur boxer from the local area, Corey Rizza on. How are you, man?
I'm really good, to be honest.
So, first things first, like, I always just kind of want to get into when we have a new guy on, how did you get into doing what you were doing, right? And we kind of had a little bit of a brief chat before starting. You mentioned that you've kind of been involved in martial arts from the age of 3, but I guess like the kind of first specific thing that I want to ask is, how did like boxing come about? Can you remember like your first experience of boxing? Was it watching it? Was it just partaking in training or something like that? How did it come along, and what was the catalyst for getting into training?
So like the catalyst of getting into training was basically, it was when I was like 6 or 7, I was doing kickboxing. I did not kick at all. I was not flexible for it. I just liked swinging and try and throw punches. So the coaches at Kaizen basically said, oh, you should give up or try boxing, because that's when it was at the old gym. So Kaizen was basically the front, and then at the back it was Elgin Boxing Club. So we went round to the back, asked if we could watch, asked Goldie, and so we could watch the first session, and then my mum basically just pinged Ratch 100 or so messages, just kept pinging him saying, can Corey try out boxing? There was no kids class at the time.
Oh, right, yeah, so still be the kind of, not the early days, but they were still obviously building the club up to what it is now, right?
Yeah, so I think the youngest one there at the time was Fraser. So, and I'm...
What's the age difference between you and Fraser?
3 years or 4 years. So
okay, so that's a big gap.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a go eventually, and it was really fun. And I kept going and going and going, and that's kind of how I got into boxing. Didn't really watch it before. It just kind of...
Are you more a fan of the sport now from partaking in it, or are you still someone that's more like, I do it, but like I don't as much enjoy watching it at the same time?
Yeah, I just enjoy doing it. I feel like watching it, I find like my analytical brain goes on, and I try and just watch what they're doing, and I can't like relax and enjoy the actual fight.
Right, okay, yeah. So I guess it is probably kind of hard to like differentiate in leisure and like go time when you have to be serious, because obviously you compete and stuff like that, right? And that, I guess that's kind of like my next thing. Did you ever think to begin with when you started training, like, I'm going to compete in this, or is that something that kind of obviously came later down the road as you got more experience and stuff like that?
I think I just wanted to fight. I didn't like, when I was 7, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to win the Commonwealths. But when I started competing, I started thinking, wait, there's Scottishes now. Let's aim for that. So like I focused on like the novices and then the intermediates and then the opens whenever it came to it. But I didn't originally think I would have got as far as I have now. When I first started, I just kind of was doing it because I enjoy it, because I was doing that and 5 other sports. So, 5 other sports.
What was like unique about combat sport? Because I take it, do you still do multiple sports now, or is it solely just the combat stuff?
I still do like some casual sports, but it's mainly combat.
Yeah. So what kind of made you want to go down that route as compared to some of the other sports that you've partaked in when you were younger?
So I think I'm a very like competitive person. So I think it's that one-on-one aspect. You're like basically trying to force your will.
Is there like a sense as well, like, obviously I would still say combat sports is a team sport to an extent, right? Because you have trainers and teammates and all that stuff, but it is very, like you said, one-on-one, whereas I think volleyball was one that you mentioned. That's obviously like a team sport, and everyone's relying on each other in the moment. Is there a kind of element like that as well, in terms of I want to be solely responsible for the outcome of my competition and stuff like that?
I think so, because I like to like that quote unquote phase of like digging deep.
Mm-hmm.
I like that feeling of like you have to drive to get the win.
Yeah.
When even in a team sport, you can give it your all and still lose because other people may not be
Exactly, right. You can control that resolve within yourself, right? Whereas you can't control it if on a team sport, if someone's not pulling their weight or maybe not as into it as like the rest of the team and whatnot. What's it like sparring for the first time? Because I can't even imagine what I got. I remember being a teenager and being out for a beer one night, and like this happens around the area quite commonly, where someone has like a pair of boxing gloves that they got for Christmas as like a joke, or someone's like, "Well, put them on." And I remember I got walloped in the face, and I remember telling you this a couple months ago. I felt my brain wobble in my head, and I was like, "Whoa, not for me." So I can't even imagine going in against trained pros or people of like a really high skill level that know what they're doing, because a lot of the times in my situation it's people just kind of
rabbit punching.
But like what's that like for the first time? Because I would imagine there's got to be an initiation period, like you gain tolerance to it over time and stuff like that.
So like I don't remember the first time I got punched in the face, but like I used to compete in kickboxing, so there's a photo of me on Facebook, I think my mum has, of basically me with my tooth in a gum shield because I got it kicked out when I was fighting. But I think there was definitely a changing period when I was like 13, 14. I'd fought Isa, who is like part of like the Scottish boxing team. He just won like they did like a 6-round fight in Glasgow.
Okay.
I don't know what it's called. But that was like amateur boxing still. So he's still at the top level. But when I fought him the second time, I got way too emotional, started crying. So I kind of needed to have that like mental switch. And now if you talk to like probably anyone I've sparred, if they punch me, I'm just ended up smiling. So it's just changing that outlook. So I end up like giving them a big grin when they punch me hard, and it was like, so
I suppose it teaches you like a lot of resolve in life as well as the sport, right? Because when we had Fraser first in, like his kind of common theme throughout the years is he's always been the smallest guy in the gym, right? Like you were mentioning, he was like the first kind of younger guy to go in. So when he was 10, he was like sparring 16-year-olds, and due to like not limitations in sparring, but obviously because we live in more remote areas, you've got to travel for better quality of sparring and more unique sparring for competitions and stuff. Like he's always saying, I've always had to be bit in with the bigger guys. But in terms of like, I've totally lost my train of thought where I was going with that. I've just totally rambled on.
Well, I've got kind of a point to make from that. Like, I'm a big believer in the kids that know how to defend themselves get into less fights.
Life lessons, that's what it was, yeah.
Like, I think they get into less fights. Just kind of from personal experience, once you learn how to box, would you consider yourself you got into less confrontations as a kid, or was there any confrontations you got into because people thought he can box, he can't box, I can box him, Was there anything like that when you were younger?
No, I was quite lucky. I didn't get into any fights when I was in school. Now, like being in Glasgow, if I'm out with my mates at a pub, don't really get confrontation because I'm just like I avoid it at all costs.
I suppose it always depends on personalities as well, right? Like I think some people probably do go to combat sports gyms thinking, I can use this, but they don't last long, right? It's not people that stick around in the long term. But you did just remind me of what I was going, life lessons. Sometimes I just ramble and I walk myself to the corridor and start panicking. I was like, where was I? But it's like going up in the sport, right? There's a lot of learning how to lose, right? Because there's a lot of close fights, there's a lot of split decisions, there's a lot of contentious decisions in boxing at various levels. But it's going again, isn't it? Like when Fraser was on, where I can actually remember what I was going to say this time, he was talking about that he was getting quite disheartened because he would be on the end of maybe a split decision loss here, split decision loss there, where it literally could have gone either way, or he felt he'd won the fight in that. And there was a couple of times that he'd went to football and he went to the Marines and stuff like that and came back, and obviously he's pursuing and doing amazing in what he's doing now, right? So like that kind of life lessons it gives you as well outside of the ring as well, is that something that like you appreciate as you grow up as well?
Yeah, you kind of like get not used to it, but like you don't get bothered as badly.
You don't think it's like
by,
the end of the world or
setbacks.
something, yeah. Mhm.
Because like I've had the setbacks of trying to get on like Scotland team and stuff like that, and then going on and off, stuff like that. But yeah, you do get the setback. I feel like for me, I find it a lot easier to regroup now.
Yeah.
I'm older than when I was younger.
And you've got to be exposed to that to build a tolerance to it, right? And I think that's where when people are in very much fight or flight mode with everything in their life, right? If it might be a job opportunity or whatever it may be, and people feel destroyed. And it's like, it's not,
Yeah, they do.
it's not like the end of the world, but being exposed to that kind of loss or setbacks and stuff like that is good going forward, right? Because what's McGregor's coach's book, Win or Learn, is it? There's no losing, there's just winning on learning experiences, which is like a really solid statement to make, right? Because I think, especially as someone when I was younger, I really dwelled on loss. It's important that like loss is like something in the moment. It doesn't make or break you, right? But so yeah, like as you go along in the gym and the kind of career, what started the kind of competing phase? What was that moment like? Was it you that wanted to start that, or did like Ratch or Goldie or anyone come up to you and say, would you like to compete? Is that how it went? How does that work out?
So I wanted to compete straight away. But I got because I like competed in kickboxing and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I can compete. But with amateur boxing, you can't start competing until you like actual bouts until you're 10.
Right. Okay.
So I had at least 3 years to wait. So I had 3 years of actual boxing training before competing my first bout, and then I lose my first bout, and then I lose my second bout. So I think I did want to compete, but I just wanted to compete to get that like energy out, that because you get that adrenaline rush, which is really nice.
Yeah.
In a sense, there's nothing like it.
There's also, you get the adrenaline rush, but you get I think we spoke about it before with boxers, or at least MMA guys, you get an adrenaline dump as well.
Yeah.
That's like I've recently experienced that for the first time, an adrenaline dump, and that's if anything fucking really bad for you. You know, I don't understand them. Like when you've got so much good feelings going through your body, how can you go from such a high to such a low? You know. Is that the same when you experience a loss? Like you're obviously going into a lot of these fights feeling confident. Do you go through a range of emotions after a loss? Or do you just kind of take on the chin, get on to the next one?
Now it's just I kind of accept it. Like I look back at a fight. That's one thing I really like doing. I like if I'm not injured or anything really badly, I'll watch my fight back. Like,
do you record all your fights?
So yeah, it's all recorded. Mainly for personal use to analyze what I've done wrong, what I did well.
Yeah.
But I write around 4 pieces of paper just on what I did well, what I didn't at different time points. And I really enjoy like analyzing my fights.
Yeah.
Because it makes the loss not feel as bad. Because I'm like, okay, this is what I did wrong. This is how I can improve to then.
You take something away from it, right? Whereas I suppose if you just dwell on a loss and keep thinking, I lost, that serves you nothing really in the end, right? It's just kind of, rumination. So what was your first competition?
So my first bout was a random bout at the Borders. And that was with like David Reed, who's now referee.
All right, okay.
Boxing.
Right, wow.
So David Reed was down, and then I can't remember the other boxers who were down there. But it was 5-6 hours journey to then fight and then sleep and then go back up. So it was a quite strange experience. And then my like first actual competition was the Scottish Novices. I don't know what year, a couple of years back. And like I got knocked out of that straight away, knocked out of a tournament. So it's like, okay, I realize I'm not.
Was that another long journey as well?
Yeah, so that was down at like Ravenscraig.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is. Yeah, it's Motherwell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I think that was my first big competition, and getting knocked out straight away was like very disheartening. But
like just going back to that, it's almost like that's where you know if you're going to be committed or not, right? Because there's always the liking of an idea, the idea of doing something, and then actually getting to experience it. And some things aren't what your younger self thinks straight away and stuff like that. But I suppose that must be like a really big kind of shock to the system as well, being so young and having to like, because you know Razor mentioned this as well when he was in the amateurs, like you're having to get up really early to make it to these shows, right? Because most of them are situated in the likes of Glasgow and the Central Belt and that's, you know, it's the same with the SBG guys when they go to grappling competitions and all. It's like 4 hours minimum away. Like that is, I suppose that teaches you like, or you appreciate it more because it's the grind of it as well, not just with the training and the work that goes into it, but just even the travel, like the burnout from stuff like that as well must be brutal, man.
Yeah, no, that's the bit I don't like, but I really enjoy because it makes it like, okay, I'm going to fight away and it's properly away from home. I've got to make a statement or try and make a statement. That's like the aim every time you go out.
It stands you in good stead for going forward if you're thinking about going pro as well. That the majority of your fights, until you start getting a name for yourself, are fights away, you know, in places that you don't really know and are normally favouring home fighters and things like that. That's what the beginnings of your career will be. Excuse me. I've got a question for you. Do you kind of base your style on anyone?
So no. I just kind of do what I think works, and like from watching back, it's kind of built into my own style because I think of myself of trying to fight very clean, but then looking back a lot of my fights, I end up really scrappy. And I think that's where like the jiu-jitsu and judo comes in play. Because I used to be really bad at fighting inside work, like inside fighters getting inside. So now I just tangle them up, walk to the ropes and wait and try and make a break to land straight because I'm quite tall for my weight.
Yeah.
So I always like trying to box it long and clean. That's like the basic style. But I don't really have like an inspiration for a style. I just kind of go in. My mentality is just jab the head off and then that's see from there.
It's awesome to see though, like, or to hear, sorry, that the other martial arts can actually be implemented in certain ways in like a certain martial art. Because I think obviously there's like a bit of contention at the moment because the kind of pro game's going a bit wild with like, you know, someone wins a belt in the UFC and they're like, I'm going to box Gervonta Davis. And it's like, you know, let's maybe defend the belt first or something, you know, like, but it's cool to see that like they're transferable skills though, right? Because I think probably maybe 20 years ago, I think everyone would just be like, let's just keep in our own lanes, right? But it's cool that you can take certain things, because that's what martial arts is about, really. It's all about self-defense and implementing it.
Well, everyone's seen what happened to James Toney with Randy Couture and was like, okay, let's just not go down that avenue again. But it's getting more and more common, isn't it, crossover? I've found a lot of common crossovers. Everyone's getting into bare knuckle these days. Like, it's absolutely brutal, that sport. Like, and I didn't realise there's so many divisions to it. It's a bit like boxing. Like, boxing divisions confuse the living shit out of me, and I think they should just, like, I get why they do it, but when they've got different weight classes and different divisions, then that I can't really get my head around. Talking of weight classes, do you always plan to stay at 75, or is there going to be a move?
I reckon I'll probably end up going to 80 eventually. I'm quite, as I said, I'm tall for 75. I'm still a teenager, technically. So
how old are you, Corey?
19.
19. Yeah.
So
damn, that makes me feel old now.
So I feel like I can definitely grow into 80. I reckon not this season, probably not next season, probably like 2 seasons time.
Yeah.
I will be like, it's time to move up.
Well, especially like you're I think it's like 22, 23 before people start growing naturally. So you're going to develop that weight naturally across your shoulders and things like that. It's not necessarily you having to go and put on that weight to keep with your height, you know. But we also see, you see a lot, I'm going to go back to UFC here, but you see a lot of guys that are taller, like Sean O'Malley and that, who have a lot of success with striking and that these days. So tall and thin can have its advantages as well.
Yeah, you can't judge a book by its cover, right? Like there's a lot of like kickboxers that have went to like MMA and did really well, and they look like they've got the perfect body type for like a wrestler to just manhandle them, and like a lot of them have success. You look at like the Pereiras, the Adesanyas of the world, and things of that nature. See, when you're fighting, like you mentioned, you're a taller guy. Is it easier to fight a guy that's the same height, and is it more difficult to fight someone that's shorter? Because like I guess like the main kind of assumption would be, if you're taller than someone, you've got the reach, you've got that, you know, physical advantages in the length and stuff like that. But I see like a lot of pro guys that like seem to kind of, for me, like Anthony Joshua was like a guy that when he started fighting like stocky guys, even Tyson Fury seemed to like quite struggle with that. Is that like you have to kind of adjust on the fly? It depends on who you're fighting at the time, or is there like certain kind of body types and styles that present different challenges, you know, as you're fighting them?
I think it really depends on how they fight as well. Because if you have like, I do struggle against short, stocky boys who just can keep coming forward.
Yeah.
I've learned a way to fight it, but it ends up always being a close fight.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to judge because I end up just making it as scrappy as possible.
Yeah. And I suppose it's just the experience with dealing with that is going to like better that as well. And I suppose with like stockier guys, like you're probably not even punching straighter on. You're probably having to like punch down almost,
like,
right?
Yeah, when you're throwing your jab, you've got to like lower it. And same with hooks. Like it's mainly hooks. You've got to throw like chest height or lower.
Yeah.
Because if you miss a hook, you leave yourself wide open.
Wide open, yeah, totally. So we obviously when we've spoke to the guys that have came in from SPG and you know, Elgin Boxing Club so far, it's been a lot about the pro game, and we haven't had much apart from speaking to Fraser really about it in bits. What's like the ins and outs of the amateur game now? Because I think it's went through quite a few changes probably over the years. Am I right in thinking that the head guards are gone and stuff like that now? So like when was that implemented? And
so I don't know the like specific dates for when the head guards and stuff. But like when I first started boxing, it was the point system. So like
the clicker and stuff like that.
Which I think looking back at it, it's quite a silly way to judge a fight because it's a lot more like fencing. You literally just make sure you land a clean hit and then you run away. Yeah. Which isn't really a fight. And then like with head guards, I think without head guards makes it a bit more realistic because you have a risk of getting cuts. So it does actually make fights a bit more clean because people won't be fighting inside as much because you have that risk of clashing heads. Yeah. I think the way it is now is quite good. It's very high tempo, which I find like entertaining to watch. If you're watching it, it's only 3 rounds, so not long.
Picking up what you were saying with the bare knuckle stuff, that's why a lot of those fights are high paced because they shorten the round limit. I think it's 2 minutes for 6 rounds. Where obviously like in a championship boxing match, as it is just now, I know it used to be 15 back in the day, but it's boxing can be like a process, right? Especially in the pro games of where there's like an opening part and there's like a feeling out process, and then there's like a middle part, and then the championship rounds where that I think that longer time frame can benefit like the likes of like a Floyd Mayweather, right, who was like the best at it, like there was no one better. Whereas like you were mentioning that kind of more condensed period, there's less room for error. Like there's less room to I can have a look at this guy because how many rounds is it you usually fight? Is
it's 3 threes?
3, well, exactly.
So
like
you genuinely first round is your feeling out round, and then the other
you've
2
got to
you've got to go for it.
Yeah. Do you have you always been accustomed to that style, or do you prefer it like that, or would you prefer to be able to download a bit of data, as they say, and then go from there? What would be more preferential? Is that a word?
That's a word.
Yeah.
So like since I've done it since I was younger, when I first started, it was 1 or 3 ones. So that's really high pace. You just literally go in, throw non-stop.
Yeah.
Break. Same amount of vest as you're fighting. So I found a lot of my losses when I was younger was split decisions because I would take a bit too long to like fire up. When now I'm actually starting to get better results because I actually have that first round to figure out my opponent. So I do prefer the longer rounds.
Yeah.
But for the style I think I fight, I don't know how I would do if it was like pro rounds a bit longer because I'm on my toes. I'm a lot like quite bouncy.
Movement, yeah. And that's the thing that Fraser brought up actually is he was boxing for his first, I think Fraser's 7-1 now, something like that.
Yep.
For like the first, all the way up to the Corey McCulloch rematch, he was like, I was just boxing like I boxed in the amateurs. Yeah. And now, obviously, with him being a Northern Sport and that, he's kind of having to learn a new style for the pro game because it's a lot more planted and stuff like that. I mean, that must be like quite an adjustment period from guys that have been in amateurs for 5, 6, 7 years, however long it may be, and then go for a pro career and have to almost learn boxing again in a way, right?
Like you've got to like punching at arms, for example, in the pro game is a lot more valuable than amateurs because if you start punching at arms at like the start of a fight, later on they won't be able to put their hands up because the arms will be dead.
The accumulation of damage and stuff.
When amateur, it's just constant.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, like there's stuff like is it ring control and stuff like that as well that all comes into the equation as well. And then obviously, I don't know, like who would it be usually I know for like local shows and that, it's usually like a referee is also playing like the judge role, but like I suppose in like amateur competitions like the Scottishes, like the Britishes, is that from like a specific committee that they hire judges from? Because I know in the pro game it's like from a governing body that they hire judges and stuff like that. If you think of like the British Boxing Board of Control, for example.
So I think I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure like some of the referees are judges as well. But like if you're reffing a fight, you can't be judging it.
Yeah.
You've got to have a minimum of 3 judges.
Yeah.
And then for like national competitions, you've got 5. So you've got like all the angles around the ring.
Yeah.
Which is ideal because sometimes it looks like a punch lands and it doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose like that's a lot of strain to put on a referee sometimes, like because I know like they kind of have to do it in the local area, just I suppose, you know, for it being feasible to put on the fight, right, in terms of trying to get people up and whatnot. But like if you think of the referee's job, the referee has to be alert, right, because like boxing, it escalates from 0 to 100 real quick, and like they've got to be in there. But at the same time, if you're asking a referee to like, how did you score that round, like I would imagine like I would have, if I had to guesstimate, 75% of their thought process is probably like, is this guy okay? Can this guy continue? How did, you know? So it'd be interesting to see if like, and I suppose that probably relies on the success of the national and local area kind of boxing for things like that to be implemented, like judges at more fights and stuff like that as well. So you've been at the Scottishes and Britishes over the years. One story, because I did have a brief read up of you before coming on, was beating England's #1 in your weight class, which seemed like it ended up being a bit of a 3-round war, and you had to kind of dig deep in that third round to beat him, and you wobbled him a bunch of times. Yeah. What was that fight like? Because that must have been... Does a fight feel long when you're in it, or does it just feel like it's over in a split second?
It felt like it was over in a split second. A lot of time to adjust in it, but like it felt like it was a second in. So go in and then fight and then go out. And then I luckily got the result. But that fight in general was, I think it kind of put my mind at set, because when I went down there, it was like, if you'd won the Scottishes, you then got an opportunity to go down and represent Scotland to like in the Britishes. But so I've just lost my train of thought.
Don't worry, mate. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Can you remember like during rounds? Can you remember what was it Ratch that was cornering you taking? No, it was.
So it was a different coach. I remember what I've got to say as well. So everyone that went down except 3 or 4 of us were on a provisional period or on the Scottish team.
All right, okay.
I was one of the only ones not on it. So like my mentality going into that fight was, I need to win this to have a chance, like to get put on Scotland's team, to kind of show Boxing Scotland, look, I'm not just won it by a fluke, the Scottishes, I can actually fight internationally. So like the coaches I had in the corner, I had boxed one of the boys before, like the coaches' boys before twice, and bet him both times. But I kind of ended up having to adapt my own way as well, because he was giving me the basic standard of keep your distance, circle, because the boy kept wanting to get in. But then that ended up not working. So first round, I knew I lost it, because he like would just do quick bursts. Yeah. And I'd be like, his head would be on my chest, and I'd be like, okay, I don't know what to do. And then second round, I started getting a bit more comfortable, bit more planned on my feet. And then third round was when I landed big shots. He would just basically come inside and just go tap, 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 tap. Not hard punches, but not like, ow, like I need to protect it. So I just wait a second, wait for him to stop, and just like throw an uppercut straight up, and his head would just fly back. And that's kind of when I realized, okay, I've got this. Yeah. And then there was, it looks really cocky looking back at it. So my hand was like, I broke my hand in the Scottishes, and it wasn't fully recovered, and I told none of the Scottish coaches, because I didn't want to get pulled out. Right, okay, yeah. But I land my straight right as a hook, or not straight right, I land a hook right and move off, and I shake it out. So
it looks like you're taunting him.
Yeah, so in the fight it looks like I was taunting him, but all I was thinking, it was like, So
how often, like, I don't think people kind of realise how often those kind of injuries happen to boxers, right? Because obviously, I know it sounds strange, but the human body is not built to do this really in
no.
a strange way, right? Like hitting someone's head, like the head's always going to be a harder object than the hand, basically, right? Like I remember seeing a video years ago, and it was in like a not like a courtroom, but like a commission hearing, and they were talking about the glove size or something. There was a big argument about that, and someone was saying, look, a boxing glove isn't there to protect someone's face.
No.
It's there to protect someone's hand, and even at the best of times, it can struggle to do that. So it is like mad. Like I think bringing up Mayweather again, I think he broke his hand like 10 times or something over the space of like his career. Do you know what I mean? And like having to get surgeries repeated and repeated, it obviously can't be great for like the kind of movement of your fingers.
That's a guy who's got millions of pounds to get surgery as well.
Yeah.
Like if you keep doing that continuously, your hands will just end up all deformed and stuff like that, and not looking great. But I think I've asked. I'm not going to ask you that question yet.
I'm just going to put the heating on again. But keep
yeah,
going.
no, that's fine. I'm not going to ask you that question again. But what's more satisfying, a decent headshot or a decent body shot?
So like body shot can be more satisfying if you drop someone with it.
Yeah.
But like I just like throwing headshots because like since I like throwing nice and straight, I like throwing a jab. If I land a jab and the head just flies back, I'm like, that's not much effort for me, and I can see it's affecting you. So I prefer like headshots, just moving around, flick a jab, and if you land it, the head just flies back, which is really like satisfying.
Yeah,
in a sense.
There's some really good sayings in boxing, but there was one that I heard. Was like a good right hand can take you around the block, but a good or great jab can take you around the world. I think that's like an awesome quote. Like, as someone that's just like a filthy casual, as I keep saying when we have combat sports guys on. Have you got ambitions to turn pro eventually?
So I don't know, to be honest. Like I like the idea of getting paid. But I don't think I would like to sell myself, because you've got to promote yourself a lot more when you're pro to sell tickets.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm like, I don't really know if that's me. I just kind of go in there because I enjoy fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm good at it. So.
And I suppose it's more, you have to take more on board then, right? That's maybe not necessarily to do with boxing, because like that's the thing that I think guys like Smarty and Fraser probably don't get enough credit for. Like they're literally selling their own tickets. Do you know what I mean? Like I know like Smarty's, I think it's Northern Sport that's his promoter, and Fraser's under Sam Kinnick at Kinnick Boxing. But like you see them all the time, social media. Like Fraser's promoting the fight that's coming up in May 4th. Are you going to that? Will you be there?
I don't know. I think I've got a trip. I think I've got to go to the Isle of Arran for my uni course, so I don't think I'll be able to make it.
What are you studying at university, just out of interest?
Geology.
Oh,
wow.
So rocks and that. Yeah, so it's complete, like, when people are like, oh, you do boxing, you're doing like sports science and stuff. No, studying rocks.
do people in like your course ever like, obviously you're probably not just coming in and be like, I'm a boxer, by the way, but like, if like anyone in your course could have asked about it, because like obviously it's, you would say it's like, it's not something you would expect, like you said. Like if people probably like sports science or management or something like that. Is it people ever get shocked when you tell them?
So most of the time I don't bring it up.
Yeah,
it's just like a conversation I can't be bothered having every time. I just normally if I bring it up, I'm just like, I do boxing once in a while.
Yeah. Because I suppose that's like,
probably think you do like boxer size or something.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But I like it just not to be like the first thing I say. Oh yeah, I do boxing. Even though it is a massive part of my life. If I'm doing geology and I'm like studying it with people, I'd rather like study my subject instead of end up talking about boxing.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose there's like, because you compete and stuff like that, there's also, I wouldn't say like a risk, but there's also like that kind of effect of where you tell someone that you're doing something of note, more people gravitate you because of that, rather than just like, oh, Corey's a cool guy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd imagine that's probably like a real big challenge for people that like get in the pro game and maybe get like an event around them or make a bit of money and stuff like that. I imagine that's probably one of the biggest things to contend with people. Because people are brutal, aren't they? Like people, like if people know that you've got money. The first thing that when you open your messages is like, "Lend us 20, will you?" You know what I mean?
Straight in with that. Have you got any plans to return to grappling?
Yeah, I mean, I should be training down in Glasgow, but I just haven't found the like time to do it. Whenever it comes summer, I'll train and then probably get beaten up in the gym. Like I'm saying, like I'm gonna get beaten up. Like they're just all better for me.
Yeah.
And I have a really bad habit of chatting shit to them when they're grappling me, which doesn't help, but it's because I just enjoy it. And I'm really good at tucking my chin, so I tuck my chin. So I'm not able to do anything, but I'm just not getting choked yet.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So
Being a boxing guy, did you have, like, I'm not saying you didn't respect other martial arts and that, but did you have a kind of thing coming into grappling thinking that boxing was like a superior sport, that a lot of boxers will maybe think over MMA, that they think boxing's a superior sport? Do you have a different kind of respect now that you've actually done grappling and realise how hard it is and things?
So I've done like grappling sports the same amount of time I've done boxing.
Have you? Wow.
Which,
Okay.
so I've always had like a massive respect when
Yeah.
people are like saying, "Oh, boxing's clear," of like all martial arts. I'm like, they're completely different, because like I've done judo the same amount of time I did boxing.
Yeah.
I just like, I'm not a black belt because you need to learn the Japanese, and I can't be bothered.
So, like, I'm just going to put a theoretical question out to you, Corey. If somebody was to get in a confrontation with you and the confrontation couldn't be avoided, what would you use? Would you use your judo, your jiu-jitsu, or your boxing to handle the situation?
I think I'd
That's
try.
a great question.
I think I'd try and like punch from a distance, but as soon as it's come close, I'm just throwing them, because
Yeah.
realistically, a good throw, if you land them on their back on the ground, that's them done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm throwing punches, especially close range, they can still land something, and you have that risk of always being clipped
Yeah.
and the like likelihood of not being clean. But it just depends the scenario. So if it's like multiple people, you punch and run. But if it's like one-on-one, I'd probably throw
Yeah.
down,
Great
because
answer.
it's a lot easier.
It just depends on the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that proper scares me, man, is when you see stuff in the news of like people one punching outside of pubs and people die because of
Yeah.
that stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
they
it's
do, man.
brutal, man. And obviously, like, the main aim is to not be in a confrontation in the first place, but obviously, like, with some characters in the world, like, you know, I take it you must know Scott from training at SBG and stuff like that. Like, even him, like, is a musician, and congratulations, Scott, by the way. He's now a blue belt in
Yes,
jiu-jitsu
he
since the
is.
last
Yeah,
time
well
that he
done.
was referenced or on here.
Fantastic.
But he was mentioning, like, even when he does like gigs in Inverness, like, it will come into conversation that, like, oh, I've trained a bit of jiu-jitsu, and he's not like saying like, oh, I'm training with Aidan Stephen, who fights on Cage Warriors, and Kev McAloon, who's submitting people left, right, and centre. But like, that spark is for someone in a pub is like, no, and like, you know, I'm an expert in that. And like the guy that he was on about in Inverness was like, what I would call legit as fuck is the stuff on YouTube, you know, where like people are like knocking people down with like face palms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He was like, I know pressure points that'll not. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Are
Like,
you
how-
still in the private SPG group?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the thing Martin put in the other day about how to deal with judo guys?
No.
And he's like,
Like, I've not watched it yet, but
It's like, I think there's been a few judo black belts come from another club over the last couple of weeks, and they've started training regular. And I think he's been asked a few questions, and all he's done is like record the CCTV from the gym of him grappling with these guys. He's like, "This is how you deal with it," and it's just him like launching guys about the place. It's fucking fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
But it's just people that have never had a reality check ever.
Yeah.
Not even just physically. I think it's because people have never even had a reality check verbally to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people going, and I think that's probably why a lot of people that go to combat sports gyms don't stick at it, right? Because they come in with a certain idea of it, like, this will be great, you know, I'll be strong. And then you realise, no, you're not just going to be great at everything here. You have to go through loss and learn and stuff like that. But that's the great thing about it, right? And I think that's what everyone that sticks at it takes away from it, if, you know, you were to ask them. So this kind of links into you ever having ambitions to turn pro, really. But I suppose if that ever did come about, seeing stuff like, were you ever at Smarty's fight in the town hall or Fraser's title fight? Like, headline a local show and fight for a title, like, you know, we're going to Fraser's fight that's coming up in May. What was it you said? Because Mac Murray's on the same day, an after party with Gareth Gates.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
But that just seems like, from watching like videos of that, just seems like amazing. But like, I suppose from what you were saying is, I'm not necessarily doing boxing for that. I'm doing it. I'm not saying you're doing boxing casually, but you're doing it for you absolutely love competing. So I suppose that's probably something that's maybe not as appealing to you, or am I right or wrong that track?
I mean, having a crowd cheer for you
Yeah.
is so much different than not. But at the end of the day, I'm doing it for like selfishly. I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
I've started to like enjoy it a bit more actually in the fights. So like I've watched back like my when I won the Northern Districts, most recently gone in one like in the finals. I miss a punch and I look at him and just shrug my shoulders and then throw a punch. But I think I've started enjoying it a bit more. Like when I'm actually in the ring, like you can see I'm enjoying it, having a bit of fun.
That's what it's all about, especially when at a young age. Like if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to pursue your passion. You ever gave MMA a thought?
Yeah. I'm tempted by it, but I just know it's a very difficult climate, especially like to get onto bigger cards.
Yeah, 100%.
I think my current goal is I want to win like or I want to medal at like Europeans or Commonwealth Games or something like that for boxing, and then that's probably when I might transition to MMA.
Yeah,
because it's almost like having a CV in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like having that kind of like, you know, this is what like I offer.
how many guys get into the UFC off their wrestling careers?
Yeah.
Wow, that's well, that's the thing. Like they always say that, you know, Europe has the edge in the boxing because it's, you know, it's a sport that's invented over here. And obviously the Americans have like the advantage in the wrestling because they've got a college system that's kind of, you know, centers around that. And there's, because it's
It's starting to get bigger over here though.
No, 100%. And the
noticed,
Americans,
you'll probably be able to tell us better. Is there like a amateur wrestling thing down in Glasgow with the colleges and that? There's a lot of like fighting clubs associated with the unis these days and things like that.
There's a lot of Glasgow doesn't have an MMA club, but I know Strathie and I'm pretty sure Cali has it as well.
Yeah,
have like MMA clubs, so it's definitely getting a lot more mainstream, which is quite good in the sense of for popularity wise. Glasgow doesn't have any grappling except judo, and they're very like Olympic style judo, which gets rid of overfun throws.
Yeah,
because overfun throws involve leg grabs.
I mean that is one thing that I think MMA has been a massive benefit is for other martial arts outside of boxing to have a really successful, like, you know, well-paid career, right? Because the specialists in judo, the wrestling, the kickboxing, Muay Thai, all these different disciplines, you're really looking at the Olympics. And then after winning a gold medal, it's either stay and wait another 4 years for an Olympics, but there's not like a specific. I know there's like stuff like Glory, but it's not on the same level
not
of
much
like
money in that either, though, is there?
No.
No, well, exactly. That's exactly why, you know, Pereira's a Glory kickboxing champion, Adesanya, so they went to the UFC, right? And whereas with boxing, because it's more mainstream in the United Kingdom, like you've got obviously like tons of big promoters that are wanting new talent every year and stuff. So it's a massive benefit. The only thing with MMA is it is very linear. There is really only one organization, isn't there? Like, look at Aiden's situation. Like he's probably on the biggest platform in terms of MMA in Europe. Yeah. And even then, it's a very American biased thing to get into the UFC. Let's reference Ross Houston. Like in the war of all wars. Yeah. And then Dalby got in. And then he was like, okay. And then I know you signed for Bellator, which at the time was a very well-paying organization, but it doesn't exist anymore because it's combined with
PFL.
PFL. So like that avenue's gone, and I thought that was like a massive blow because I know people are saying, oh, they can make better fights and that, and I was like, I get that, but there's less options for people because when people start negotiating in that, people are like thinking, or like a casual fan will think, oh, they're just wanting more money, stop being so greedy. It's like, why would you not want more money, especially with what you're doing, right? I know I'm trying to make it sound a bit dramatic here, but like sometimes you're putting your life on the line, you know what I mean? Putting yourself in these positions.
The big thing is like you can't, like especially for like the Americans and stuff in like UFC, they don't have healthcare or anything like that, so they've got to pay the healthcare, you've got to pay your coaches, you have to think about you're literally living off that money. So people, I think it's like 10k to fight, 10k to win.
That's the opening UFC kind of contract,
which sounds like a lot of money, but then if you take away the living cost, the transport costs,
taxes and all that kind of stuff,
you've got to pay for everything. Like even how you get to the UFC. Yeah. So you don't actually get that much at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was mad.
It'd be less than your average job, I would think.
Yeah, it's crazy, and like some UFC fighters have got a job on top of it, which blows my mind. Like
do you regulate? Sorry.
No, go ahead, mate.
Do you regularly watch UFC, Corey?
I watch it a lot more than boxing.
Yeah. Do you find it more enjoyable because you're not as involved in MMA at the moment as you are in boxing? Is that because of the whole kind of working leisure balance, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, definitely. I find pro boxing like long because if you're watching 10 rounds and it lasts 10 rounds, that's quite a bit of time. That's nearly an hour of your time for one fight. And I'm like, and then amateur boxing, I do watch it whenever it comes up, but it's not much tournaments, and it's mainly only tournaments that you watch. So normally it's UFC I watch. I watch a bit of PFL, a bit of bare knuckle, but because it's
entertainment.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
Trust me, I thought to myself, I'm not going to watch bare knuckle because I thought there was. I've not watched power slap. That's the way I draw the line.
Yeah,
like
I'd like to say I haven't, but I have.
Do you know that they go? How can you go to decision for letting someone smack you in the face? Like, the whole point of martial arts is the skill of being able to hit someone that is trying to defend themselves. But yeah, I mean, it's.
So my question leading on from that is, we were just kind of discussing it before you came. How disappointed are you in the UFC 300 card?
Oh, it's not good. Yeah. I'm still having a tiny bit of hope because they've not have they released a trailer yet?
I think they've said that there's one more fight to put on.
Yeah.
But how much of a bet it will be? Like, it'll be another. Do you know what it'll be? It'll be Sean Strickland for the freedom of speech bet.
yeah. It's one of the worst cards.
It's not a bad card, but it's the fact it's for UFC 300.
Yeah, and they said this will blow your mind, and they hyped it up so much to the point of because UFC 200 was kind of the same, where it was meant to be McGregor Nate 2, and then it was Jones DC 2, and then it ended up being
Anderson Silva versus DC.
Yeah, and they brought Brock Lesnar back, but Brock Lesnar's do you know he's been scrubbed from the WWE for things that we won't get into?
Like just disappeared.
Yeah, apparently was a bit closer to Vince.
Seen a picture of his daughter the other day for the first time. You seen a picture of her?
Yeah.
Wow. She looks like Brock, like more than Brock does.
Yeah,
it's fucking mad.
It's mad, but it's a bit of a bummer, man, isn't it? Like, I was getting proper excited for it because I was thinking of the options they could have. Because obviously, the open goal was the McGregor Chandler fight, really, wasn't it? Because we've been waiting for that for like over a year. It seems like they're in a bit of a cold war with Conor McGregor at the moment over something. I don't know.
He's a cold war with his addictions, mate.
No, but the thing is, though, apparently, like according to one of like these Irish MMA journalists, is like quite close to his car. Apparently, he's like been training with like Brendan Loughnane and that. So like apparently has been training, and I know I know the UFC and the WWE are connected now because last week they see Michael Chandler cut like a 5-minute promo on him, and there was a bit of conspiracy going on because the WrestleMania thing was in the background. So they're thinking, are they going to do Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler at WrestleMania?
That would be insane.
It would be.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Mankind comes out.
But I mean, it's a good card, like you say. Isn't it? Like there's some really good fights on there, like Pereira Hill.
Yeah,
it's a good one. You know what I mean? Same with I'm not really a massive fan of the BMF belt. Like I thought for the one fight it was fine, but
there's a massive curse on that belt, because every person who'd won it then goes on to get absolutely smashed in their next.
I know
fight.
What the hell? Yeah. And then Masvidal's boxing Diaz now in a boxing match.
Yeah, it's all getting a bit fucking stupid, isn't it? Just like if you've got half a name or you've had a couple of fights, you can now just walk into other sports. Can you like imagine? I don't know. Imagine Cristiano Ronaldo turning up to the Six Nations and be like, I'm just going to do this now.
I'd like to see it. I'd pay for it.
You know?
But like, I mean, the one fight that I didn't watch, I actually listened to it on the radio, was the Ngannou Fury one, right? Because I was like, there is no way. I even went up and watched the YouTube fight. You know, like I remember, I think we had Smarty on the next week after that, and he bought it. So like, I didn't go that far. I was like, let someone else, pirate it, allegedly. But I remember listening to it on the radio and then like hearing like Francis Ngannou had dropped him. I'd like stood up. I was like, no way. Yeah. I went like, I think it was like some social media. I was like, someone will have posted this already and seen it. I was like, this is nuts. And like, that's actually because I've got a kind of, we have a bit of a section when we have a fighter on of some upcoming fights and news, I guess we'll call it. But like when he's fighting Anthony Joshua in a couple of weeks' time, and when the Fury fight got announced, it was all like, there's absolutely no chance. And I was one of those people. But he actually, like, there's an arguable statement that he probably beat Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
he did.
And that is crazy to say that. And obviously, there's the whole, maybe Tyson Fury never took him seriously enough or what have you. But if he goes and beats Joshua, which if I was I would still favour Anthony Joshua, but I can't rule it out like he's probably going to be fighting for the heavyweight world
I agree.
championship
Yeah.
next, which is nuts. But like, I think that's a rare occurrence that can work.
Yeah.
I think the problem is it's happening too much now. And I get it because like from the MMA point of view, it's the money thing again, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to go and make more money. In the UFC, which is a dictatorship, let's not call it anything else, will freeze guys on like 2 fights before their contract ends and not let them fight, not offer them fights because they don't want them to go elsewhere and run the contract down basically. But it's madness. We've got into this topic from speaking about UFC 300. I feel like we've went
I had
around
a good Dana White joke there, but I'm gonna I'll leave that for after.
But before we kind of get into that kind of fight news stuff, how big of an influence in Ratch and the whole kind of community at Elgin Boxing Club, not only in your boxing career, but have had on you as a person that you are today?
I think definitely a massive influence. Being there at least Tuesday and Thursday every night for 10 years before I went to uni, I think it is part of my life. Like Elgin Boxing Club. So like even now living down in Glasgow, I still will represent Elgin fighting because I'm like,
Yeah, man.
it's
That's good.
where I'm from, stuff like that.
Yeah, was it ever kind of? Did you have to go and source a gym in Glasgow yourself when you went down there, or was there any kind of connection that was already set up that? Because like with Fraser when he went to Northern Sport, obviously Ratch and Davey obviously have that relationships with and Fraser had been through there for sparring and stuff as well. So
Ratch knew the coaches, Gary and Barry. It's at quite a new gym called Glasgow Boxing Academy.
all right, okay,
And he basically was like, yeah, there are 2 really good coaches. You have good crack in the gym as well, which is always
yeah, important.
yeah, it's important for training and enjoying the training. So I went there. Basically, Ratch said, don't say you're moving to Glasgow straight away, just say you're visiting. So if you don't enjoy it,
Yeah,
you can change clubs.
That's good advice. That.
But I did enjoy it. So I've been there 2 years, or like not 2 years on the bounce, but like 2 years whenever I'm down and studying.
That's awesome. What is Ratch like? Because we've met Ratch, but there's only like certain things you can gauge from like an hour of speaking to him. But he sounds like obviously he's a very serious man and he's very dedicated to his craft. And they're very dedicated to all the boxers that are in the club, and you see that from that video that the BBC did on him, where he's literally going straight from his work to having tea and then back out the house to get to the club and making sure everyone's on time and press up drills and all that type of stuff he was going on about. But he also seems like he's a really laid back, funny character as well. From us getting to meet him.
Yeah, he's very funny. I've spent I don't know how many hours in his car because he's from the office as well. So he would take me into training and take me back. So yeah, it's very funny. He tells like really good stories. He mentions,
how many of them are about the RAF?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He mentions he's in the RAF once in a while.
Oh man, yeah. They must have taught him very good stealth tactics in the military because when he was coming in here, we always go out for like a 5 minutes just to get like a breath of fresh air before someone meets up with us, and he was like round the corner already. We're like, oh.
Yeah, it was like SAS style. Like, it was pretty
It was the
much.
same with Fraser the first time he came out of nowhere, didn't he?
Don't know what it is with boxers. Like, okay, I've got one question to ask all my combat athletes.
He's been waiting for this one for a while.
I have. It's my favourite question. I'm going to ask Kevin McKidd this one day. I'm going to ask him. Yeah. You ever been knocked out?
I have, but not in boxing.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
I've been knocked out playing rugby
Oh, wow. Okay.
because I used to play as like a number 9.
Right.
I wasn't big. Everyone else was big. Me and my own teammate went for a tackle. We clash heads.
Oh, it was one of your own teammates.
Yeah, so we both concussed each other. So we went in for the same tackle and concussed each other, which was really funny. I mean, that was the decision where I was like, yeah, I'm going to stop rugby now because I nearly lost my front 2 teeth. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh my God, man. Yeah, like that in American football, it's meant to be up there as like one of the biggest kind of contributors to like the CTs, is that what they call the whole kind of brain stuff? Yeah, man, that's
absolutely brutal sports. Have you ever been close in boxing to, like, have you been rocked?
I've been stopped twice, but that's referee stoppage.
yeah, it's like standing and all that. Yeah.
So that was when I was like younger, when I was a kid. Basically, I was just getting overwhelmed, and the ref wouldn't just let me get my head punched in.
Yeah. And I suppose they're going to be more aware of that because of the age as well. Like, Am I right in thinking, because I know in amateur MMA for kids that are maybe 12, 13 and stuff, like they don't allow punches to the head. Was that maybe something that came? No, I suppose with the head guards they would have straight away. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the main reason why is you wear a head guard isn't even to stop like the head trauma, it's just to stop cuts and stuff like that. Which I found out in my first senior bout, which was probably the closest I would say I'd been to getting rocked in a fight. I wasn't rocked, but like I normally wear glasses because I'm long-sighted.
Yeah.
So I can't, short-sighted. So I can't see my opponent at the other side of the ring like properly. So it's quite funny. I can just see the outline. But the boy I was sparring, you've got the saying, protect yourself at all times.
Yeah.
I did not. His head went below my waistline, which is illegal in boxing. And I was like, okay, I'm boxing very clean. So I let him I was like, yeah, come on. And then as soon as I did that, he came up and caught me in the eye.
Oh.
And basically I couldn't see I couldn't focus in that eye for like 2 weeks.
Jeez.
And then I still had an entire round, and then I got my nose broken at the end, like the very last punch of the fight, because it came from that side. I just went, which,
no.
Man, not for the faint-hearted. This life, man. It really isn't. It's crazy as well. Like I think I read something as well on the head guards that I think one of the decisions that it kind of factored into them taking it out was it might have actually been linked to keeping, like, because they compared it to like a bottle smashing. Like, isn't there something like if a bottle hits something and it breaks, there's less pressure, but if it doesn't, there's more. So like I guess getting punched in the face, if there's nothing containing it, like the energy just kind of zaps out.
I didn't know that. That's quite interesting.
Whereas like the head guard, I guess, was keeping it in there. I could be totally wrong there. Like it was on the internet. But
can I put you on the spot with one last question before, just because I kind of just keeping an eye on the time and things like that. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want an answer to this one. Okay, who hits harder out of Fraser, Smarty, or Lucas?
Lucas.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if Lucas lands a good body shot, it hurts. I feel like I get hit more by Fraser. I've not sparred Smarty properly for a while because there's quite a big size difference.
Yeah.
Whenever I was spar Fraser, I'd get hit more, but Lucas's punches are harder. But I think that's
just a weight thing, because obviously Fraser's 154, I believe. He's a super welterweight.
Yeah,
I think.
I get too confused with MMA weights.
Okay, right. But yeah, like obviously, like that age, speed, and what do they call it? The agility. Yeah.
Yes.
And then obviously Lucas being 80 kilos, you said he is. Yeah. Like, but I suppose that's probably more what you're used to with you fighting at 75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more used to, like, right now. I was said it like before the podcast. But right now I'm sparring mainly with a heavyweight, who punches hard.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's not slow either, but he's just a bit sloppy with his technique. Not sloppy, just high tempo.
Yeah.
So like his hands won't return straight back to his chin. It'll be bam, 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 bam. So you just have to wait a second, and then throw a punch. But he's only had like 7-8 bouts, and he's already became Scottish champion, which is
that's mad. That's mad. Yeah, but I mean, I suppose like that's what these guys have got to do. Is they've got to throw themselves into the deep end, right? Like I think it might have been Ratch that we were speaking to about this, but Fraser, when he won that belt, it was probably 4 fights too soon, but he just had to take the opportunity, and obviously it paid off amazingly for him. Like I'm sure that's something that he'll never forget as far as he goes, and he's obviously got big plans. From speaking to him, and obviously and being on here. Lee mentioned the grappling and stuff like that. You've had an involvement with SBG Murray for quite a long time as well, as alongside of Elgin Boxing Club. Ratch describes MMA as the dark side. Is that how you? Because Ginge went over there, yeah. What's it like having? Because him and Martin are like, you would say the best 2 combat sports trainers in the area, right?
Yeah.
So like what's it been like being able to get wealth of knowledge from them both?
I think it's been really good. It's quite funny because like I knew Martin, Kev and stuff when I was a kid, when they were in the boxing
because
side.
they were involved in the
so I've known them for quite a while. But it's quite nice getting like both point of views.
Yeah.
That's the main thing I like.
Is there differences in their approach? Obviously, they're teaching somewhat different things, but I suppose there can be similarities in the way someone coaches someone, right?
I think that it is. I think the jiu-jitsu is a lot more drilling when
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but that just kind of changed back to like doing more technical stuff. So then focusing more on the technical side of things. That's one similarity I think both have. It's focusing more technical instead of that fitness, physical side of things. Because at the end of the day, you can get fitter by yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
But you can't learn technique without the help of a coach. So I think that's probably the similarity between them two.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest character you've trained with?
Biggest character?
Is it Aiden Stephen?
I mean, he's
all day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah. But probably Aiden, if we're going both boxing.
Trust me, like this is our first video episode back on YouTube for quite some time. Probably people thought it's more been an internet issue that's been sorted out now. But the last time that we had a video episode, it was him that was here, and we asked him about a certain motorbike incident, to which he then decided to get the photo out of him being naked on said motorbike and showed to the camera, so which I then had to go blur in post. But yeah, like he's obviously got a fight coming up as well, but we can get to that in a minute. So obviously you moved to Glasgow for university and stuff, and we've kind of talked about that. What about your current competition? Have you got stuff that's coming up in the...
So I'll have the Scottish Opens coming up, which is like the big Scottish boxing competition. I mean, this year I've not boxed as much as I would have liked to. I wanted to box in the university championships, but the way they do, like, to get a chance to fight is stupid. So it was like 16 plus fights, but then it goes off a win-loss ratio.
Right. Okay.
And since I've been doing it when I was a kid, my win-loss ratio, it's like 60-40.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But then if you look at my last 10 fights, it's 2-8. So it's completely different. So it went off a win-loss ratio, so I never got a chance to box in it. I was put in a B category, and I'm not going down to Portsmouth to fight in a B category.
Yeah, 100%.
And then I did Northern Districts, which, because I'm registered down in the north, was quite fun. I got my first ever like proper KO, which was dropping someone. How?
What kind of punch?
It was just 4 straight to the head, bam, 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 and he just went down. But it should have been stopped way earlier.
Was that almost like a bittersweet moment in a way? Because obviously you don't want to...
Yeah.
I know the objective is to technically hurt someone, but you don't want someone to like take more than they need. You know what I mean?
I mean, I was being a bit dirty because I saw that he was wobbly. So every time he'd throw a punch, he comes diving in. I would just grab his head and push it down to the ground because I was like, please just get down on the ground. But then the finals was quite hard. I was against a really experienced lad from King Corf. I'm saying lad, he's a man. He's 30. He was like 33. So
that is mad. Like boxing someone 14 years your senior.
Yeah. So he was very skilled. He could just take a punch. I'd throw a punch, and he keeps walking forward. I was like, come on. I'm like, I know I don't punch the hardest for my weight category, but just walking through, like, it's meaning nothing. But the big challenge leading up to that fight is I sprained my ankle 3 weeks before it.
Right, affecting movement and all that type of stuff. Yeah,
which is really, it's funny to think about, like, looking back at it. Afterwards, I had to not fight at the home show though, because it re-injured itself because I didn't have enough time to heal. And then for the Opens, that's like the big one. And 75 kilo is like stacked at the moment. So you've got my teammate Aaron,
Aaron Devine,
who won it 2 years ago, and then you've got 2 of like the youth ones coming up who won like the GBs and scholarships, and then you've got like a Celtic champion and the champion from last year. So you've got and then you've got the lad who's done like the finals both years on the bounce.
Yeah, the Murray combat sports scene is crazy. Like from us just doing this, like we've actually kind of learned how crazy in depth it is. Like I followed this guy on I think he followed the studio page and I followed him back, but we've mentioned him on here before, young Ethan Hendry that trains at SBG. I've not been that scared of a 16-year-old since I was 16, you know what I mean? Like
he has a work rate. I've grappled with him before. I remember Martin's like, oh, you go with him because I'm high energy typically when grappling, and he's really high energy, and I just remember I got on his back and I just held it because I was like, I can't be bothered with...
It just reminds me of like a young Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson at like 12, just like,
very like naturally gifted, as well as not even just naturally gifted. He's very committed to the sport, which is
it's good to see.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's one of the things we've been impressed with having young guys like yourself on and Fraser. It's like, it's really refreshing to see, because I think just with the limitations of the area, sometimes people get in, and not like I'm criticizing this, but sometimes people can get involved in, bad stuff sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's sometimes I don't want to say an easy option, but it's sometimes, people just get up to mischief and that, and you've seen that a lot with like a lot of the antisocial behaviour that's kind of been going on recently. But it's really cool to see that there's also a lot of great young people that are involved in not just combat sports, but in different areas that are obviously doing the area proud, as well as the the pro guys like Aiden, and I guess the Trailblazers in the way, the guys that were self-taught from SBG and Ratch coming from the RAF and starting up a boxing club. Before we kind of get into like fight predictions and stuff, thank you very much for your time, mate. An hour does fly by. It's always like the first 5 minutes, like, and I still get it as well. They're like, I better not lose my train of thought, and when it happens, I'm like, damn. But as we get into it, it kind of flies by. So we'll go through some upcoming fights, and then we have a question each that we end on.
Yeah, I'll do the corporate stuff now quickly before.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Go for it.
Thank you for listening to the Northeast Corner. We are on 9 ratings. I checked that before we came on. 9 5-star ratings. People can do better than that. How many followers we got? More than 100.
Over 100,
yeah.
And then we've got 100 on.
10%.
I know.
So like,
I need you to get round their houses and do what you did for the football journals.
Yeah.
Get on that for me.
I don't think I've got any rocks left.
But yeah, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and Amazon. 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. And I hate saying this because it makes me feel like I'm Jake Paul or something, but if you can subscribe and like the video on YouTube, that would be much appreciated. Check
out the studio page, and check out the studio on LinkedIn now as well.
LinkedIn and Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. Oh, I didn't know that.
I've had that for ages.
I have to get on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram myself, so
that's probably why you don't know it's on Instagram. Then
this is true. Right.
Okay, we'll blast through these because I have a few written down, and we're over there already. We'll just go yes or no on this. Will Fury and Usyk ever happen? I'm going to say no.
Beyond caring.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's one of the ones out of all the few that I'm beyond caring about. I'm like, if it was going to happen, it should have happened a long time ago. They're not the same fighters now.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so congratulations on that fight actually happening, because our predictions are awful here. But
yep.
What was it like? We had
well done, Fury.
30% win record on one of the UFCs we predicted.
Terrible.
Joshua versus Francis.
Oh,
it's hard, man. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to say Joshua, and if I'm proven wrong again, fair enough.
I kind of want to see Francis do what he done to Tyson. If he does if he fights the way he fought Tyson Fury, he'll beat Joshua. No, hands down.
That's so mad that you're saying that.
Yeah.
From like 3 months ago, it's like, nope.
Yeah.
I mean, I should say Anthony Joshua, but I feel like a guy who's just going to end up landing a big shot, and it's just because of how he gave up against
Ruiz, wasn't it? Yeah.
I could see that like ending the fight.
Totally agree.
Although I will say Joshua did look really good, and like the best that he looked for a while in his last fight. So yeah, I'm just kind of buzzing to see that, because it is like,
who was that? The Swedish guy he fought?
Otto Wallin, the guy that cut Fury.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was.
So yeah, but it feels like a 90s heavyweight fight, like the Mike Tyson of, just because they're both physical specimens, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like yeah. So look forward to seeing that. Volkanovski. Oh, it was a bit heartbreaking, wasn't it? Like, I kind of thought Topuria, when he was doing the whole McGregor act with taking the belt and everything, I was like, he's messed up here.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the fight was going Volkanovski's way until they got stuck on the cage and then
blasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like after the Islam one, that was always going to happen after the short space of time.
I just think it's mad how he's went from probably pound for pound best 2 losses in a row now.
I mean, it's following the track of like UFC fighters under 170, that are 35 and older, just losing the belt and unable to.
I think there's only been 2 wins, and both of them were Tyron Woodley. So if you discount him, it's like
horrible fighter.
0 and 38,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And then, like, the prime example of that is Tony Ferguson at the moment. Like, I seen him on a podcast recently. He's like, I'm running this till the wheels fall off. And I'm like, mate,
They've already fallen
It's
off.
time. It's time.
Yeah.
That sucked. I did not watch. I didn't like watching that, man. Josh Taylor is fighting Jack Catterall again. Obviously, they had a very controversial. Jack Catterall basically beat him in the eyes of a lot of people, and I think, is it going to be at 140 again? I believe
It's
it is,
140.
which obviously doesn't benefit Josh Taylor after the kind of brutal weight cuts he's had to go through. I'm going to pick Jack Catterall.
So am
I think Jack, just purely, if it was a different weight category, it could be a different, but I think it's too light.
Yeah, and obviously, that wasn't that long ago that he got that loss to Teofimo as well, and he kind of got beaten up a bit bad there. But I'll be patriotic and say that I want Josh to win, but my head's saying that Catterall's probably going to win again. Okay, here's the two big ones. We've went through the stuff. We've got Aidan Stephen finally getting his opponent announced for Cage Warriors Scotland. A guy that I said to Lee, because I looked up, the Cage Warriors did a bit of a preview where they had like the face blanked out but the flag. So I instantly went on the Cage Warriors roster and looked at it for Italian guys. And the guy that I had found was a bantamweight, and he had just lost. He hadn't lost the belt, and he went down to flyweight and he lost to their champion. So I'm like, he's coming back up, and they're going to give Aidan Stephen this fight. He's going to beat that ex-champion, and he's going to get the title shot next. Yeah. I was like, there's one other guy in there, but he's only had one fight on Cage Warriors. It won't be him. Yeah. 2 days later,
it's him. It's him.
Scott Atoli, I believe his name is. I don't know what it is about Cage Warriors, but every time Aidan fights, like the anxiety I had when Aidan came on last time trying to pronounce Dan Dice's name, because the look of like
Dan Dykes, Don Dugis, all sorts.
But that we've also got a bit of beef with him because he stopped that logo from being on Cage Warriors as we were a sponsor, and
absolute baldy Dutch prick. Sorry,
please don't come and him that said that, not me.
Sorry, I know some boxers and stuff. It's all right. We're sorted. What's he gonna do? Seen him box? He's fucking hopeless.
Okay, your funeral. Aidan Stephen by first round stoppage.
Aidan Stephen by submission.
I reckon Aidan round, second round, something on the ground. Either TKO or...
Yeah, man. Backflip.
I would love to see Aidan pull off a Darce choke.
Yeah, his tosses are so good.
Oh, they're nasty fucking things. You don't even know you're in one until you're right, what I'm going to do here, and then all of a sudden that arm's trapped in there and it's game over. Like,
awesome. Behind you, Aidan. I'll see you on Wednesday. Filming the Cage Warriors promo, I guess. Fraser Wilkinson, who currently I don't believe has an opponent, but Fraser Wilkinson versus TBD. I'm going with Fraser Wilkinson.
8-1, Fraser Wilkinson.
Yeah. Fraser.
Smarty got a fight.
Not that I know of.
No, I think, that's the mad thing. Smarty's luck with like getting fights sorted has been horrendous. Like, he had, when he came on last time, before he said that the fight they had coming up in October, which I was a bit kind of hesitant about because it was pretty fresh off of the stoppage at the Braehead Arena, that got postponed. Well, no, the guy pulled out, so they just put him into the semi-final by default, and then that also got pulled. So God knows what's going on there at the moment. Final questions. Do you want to go first? Will I do it?
I'll go first tonight. What's the one thing that makes you the happiest, Corey?
Probably fighting. Probably like some sort of sparring or something. Just it doesn't even matter for sport.
Punching someone in the head.
It doesn't even have to be punching. It's just any sort of like fighting.
Is it just the adrenaline that you get from it, do you think?
I think so. I think I like the use of energy. I'm a very energetic person. Less now than I was when I was younger, but still.
What's one thing you overthink?
I could go like the standard thing of like obviously losses, but I think one thing that I overthink a lot of the time was the way I interacted with people before, probably 2 years ago.
Oh, that's an awesome one, man. Yeah. See, like every time that we have one of the fighter guys on, it is something, because a lot of people say everything. Right, and that is, I understand that, because I think that kind of proves that a lot of the kind of fears and anxieties everyone has, and it's just something that we don't talk about often enough for people to kind of realise that. But every time we have a fighter on, I think Smarty said, was it preparation? I think it was, which I thought was a really good one. And Fraser was comparing myself to others. Yeah, but it's cool to hear stuff like that, because like from looking from the outside in, you wouldn't think someone that's involved in combat sport we'd have these sort of like
Exactly,
fears and
yeah.
stuff like that. So it is cool to like, hear things like that, mate. So thank you very much for coming on, mate. We know you've
Appreciate it.
obviously, I take it you're up in the area anyway. I hope you haven't just drove from Glasgow to be
I
here.
was meant to get a haircut as well, but
Well, we will pay for it next time. It'll be in the post.
Ryan can do some magic or something, green screen.
Yeah.
What kind of hairdo do you want?
for that too.
But yeah, we will be back for episode 108. I don't know who it's going to be yet. It could be out of 3 people.
Yeah. And it might be the first one without me for a while.
It could possibly well be. We haven't been able to come to new contract terms with Lee, so he's
Preoccupied.
yeah. He's got 2 podcasts left, and I'm doing a UFC and shutting him out until he agrees new terms. I think if we had to guess, it's probably going to be Kev.
It's probably going to be Kev. And then if it's not Kev,
It will be someone else.
it's going to be someone else. Yeah.
But yeah, until next time.